I want you to close your eyes for a second, just for a moment. Picture it. It is the dead of night. We're talking December 1993. You're standing somewhere on the Gold Coast of Long Island. It's freezing cold. It's pitch black, probably 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that raw, wet cold.
Exactly. And the only sound you can hear is the wind coming off the water. It's totally silent until you hear something else.
A chop, a kind of rhythmic, mechanical thrumming that just gets louder and louder.
Yes, it's the unmistakable sound of a twin-engine Bell jet helicopter. But here's the thing. It just doesn't sound right.
No.
It's not that smooth, steady hum you expect from, a corporate transport. It's erratic. The engine is whining. The pitch is changing constantly.
It sounds sick.
It sounds sick. And if you look up into that black sky, you see this machine just spiraling downwards, plummeting toward the icy black water of Little Neck Bay.
And if we could somehow, zoom into that cockpit, what we'd see is it's just terrifying. This isn't some kind of mechanical failure. It's not a bird strike or anything like that. The pilot is Jordan Belfort. And he is, let's be clear, he is flying this incredibly complex piece of machinery while completely, utterly high.
High on a cocktail of drugs that, the source material says it would probably kill a normal person.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking Quaaludes, morphine. It's a lethal dose for most people.
And it's not just that he's high. The book is so specific about his state. He is fighting double vision. He's seeing 2 horizons, 2 dashboards, 2 of every single instrument panel.
Which is just a chaotic physiological reaction to the drugs. So in a stroke of what he considers absolute brilliance, he comes up with a solution.
A solution, okay.
He figures, if I'm seeing 2 of everything, I'll close one eye.
You're kidding. He's landing a helicopter at night in a spiral with one eye closed.
One eye closed. It's the perfect metaphor for his entire life at this point, isn't it? He is literally blinding himself to half of reality just to keep the machine moving.
And the landing itself. The fact that he survives is a miracle.
A total miracle. He doesn't hit the water. He somehow manages to pull up at the absolute last second. The skids of the helicopter actually clip the treetops, just shredding branches, and he comes down on his own estate in Old Brookville.
But he doesn't land. That's the key word.
No, he doesn't land. He bounces.
He bounces.
The helicopter hits the lawn so hard that it rebounds back into the air from the sheer force of the impact, and then it slams down again, gouging this massive crater into his perfectly manicured lawn.
It's a violent metal crunching arrival. And this is where the character study really, really begins. Because most people, right, after cheating death by inches, you'd be hyperventilating.
You'd be checking to see if you still have all your limbs. Crying. Something.
What does Jordan do?
He turns to his co-pilot, a guy named Captain Mark, who is presumably just white-knuckling the seat, trying not to have a heart attack.
Right.
And Jordan slurs out a question. He doesn't ask, are we alive, or is everyone okay? He asks with total 100% sincerity, was I good, buddy, or was I good?
That is unbelievable. Was I good?
It's absolute unshakable delusion. He genuinely believes that crashing a helicopter into his own front yard while basically comatose is a display of profound skill.
That image right there, the crash, the drugs, the crater, and the ego that survives it all, that is our entry point. Welcome back to The Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today, we are taking a stack of sources that are, frankly, wilder than fiction. We are digging deep into the memoir of Jordan Belfort, specifically focusing on the dense, chaotic details we've pulled from the Dutch edition of The Wolf of Wall Street.
And this is such a fascinating document. It is a memoir, yes, but if you really strip away the Hollywood glamour, the movie version of it, it reads like an anthropological study of a tribe that has completely lost its moral compass. It's a case study in excess.
Exactly. Our mission today is to look past all the party stories. We're not here just to talk about the fun times, the wild tales. We want to understand the mechanics, the how. How does a person go from being a rookie in a cheap suit to a guy crashing a multi-million-dollar helicopter? We want to dissect the financial manipulation, the specific rat holes and IPO rigs, and the psychology behind what they called the mighty roar of that dealing room.
And we have to look at the central theme here, which is the illusion of the master of the universe. Belfort presents himself throughout this text as a kind of wolf in sheep's clothing. He relies on looking innocent, he relies on his youth, but beneath that exterior, there is a predator just waiting to eat.
So let's unpack this. To understand the predator, we have to see the cub, We have to go back before the yachts, before the crash, before all of it. We have to go back to May 4, 1987.
The first day.
The very first day on Wall Street. Jordan Belfort walks into the lobby of L.F. Rothschild. Now, you have to keep in mind, in 1987, this is a prestigious firm. This is white shoe, old money.
The establishment.
The absolute establishment.
Yeah.
And in walks Jordan. Is he the wolf yet?
Oh, far from it. He is 24 years old. He's fresh-faced. And the text makes a real point of describing his attire. He's wearing this cheap blue suit that doesn't fit quite right.
A little too big in the shoulders, probably.
Totally. And crucially, he's wearing these clunky, thick-soled shoes that get him mocked almost instantly. He just looks wrong.
He looks like a tourist.
He looks like a victim. He walks into this dealing room, this lion's den, expecting to be welcomed as some kind of prodigy. Instead, he meets his first boss, a man named Scott.
And Belfort's description of Scott is just hilarious.
It's incredible. He says he looks like a goldfish wearing a bow tie.
A goldfish in a bow tie. You can just picture the bulging eyes and the pursed lips.
Exactly. But this goldfish has teeth. Scott takes one look at Jordan, up and down, and immediately just eviscerates him. He tells him point blank, "You are the lowest of the low."
Wow. What a rough orientation. Welcome to the team, you are nothing.
Scott explains the hierarchy of Wall Street to him in these very stark, brutal terms. Jordan isn't a broker. He isn't an analyst. He is a connector.
A connector. That sounds almost technical, like a systems engineer or something.
It sounds much better than it is. In the context of 1987 Wall Street, a connector is basically human automation. Remember, there's no email marketing. There are no automated dialers.
There's just the finger in the phone.
Just the finger on the phone. Scott explains that a connector's job is to dial the phone 500 times a day.
500 dials. That is more than one a minute, nonstop for hours on end.
And he is strictly forbidden from doing anything else. He cannot sell, he cannot recommend a stock, he cannot give advice. His entire existence is to get a decision maker on the line, a CEO, a business owner, and the very second he hears that voice, he has to hand the phone to a real broker.
He's a glorified door opener, a human auto dialer.
A human auto dialer. Scott tells him, "You don't think, you don't speak, you dial." And while he is doing this grunt work, he is surrounded by the masters of the universe.
Who are they? Who are these guys?
These are the senior brokers at L.F. Rothschild. They are the guys making the real money. They're sitting back with their feet up on the desks, casually reading the Wall Street Journal, completely ignoring the frantic dialing of the connectors.
An air of total arrogance.
Total arrogance. They're loud, they're rich. And Scott tells Jordan, "You look like a kid, and Wall Street is no place for kids. It's a place for predators."
Talk about foreshadowing. I mean, Scott is basically telling him, if you want to survive here, you have to kill the kid inside you.
That is exactly the lesson Jordan takes away. He realizes in that moment that being the nice guy in the ill-fitting blue suit gets you absolutely nowhere. You have to be the predator.
But if Scott was the stick, the abuse and the hard work, Jordan very quickly finds the carrot.
Yes, he does. The mentor, Mark Hanna.
Mark Hanna.
This guy is everything Jordan wants to be. He's the top senior broker. He's wearing the custom-tailored $2,000 pinstripe suit. He has the slicked back hair. He just oozes that aggressive, confident charisma.
The alpha.
The absolute alpha. And for some reason, he takes a shine to Jordan.
Maybe he sees a little of himself in that hunger, that desperation.
I think so. He invites Jordan to lunch, and this isn't a sandwich at a deli. He takes him to the top of the sixes.
This scene is so pivotal in the book. It feels like the moment in a vampire movie where the elder vampire teaches the new one how to hunt.
That's a great way to put it. They're at this high-end penthouse restaurant overlooking all of Manhattan. It's the middle of the workday.
And what's the first thing Hannah orders?
Martinis. Yeah. Not one, a round. And he just keeps them coming. He's drinking heavily, but he's still razor sharp, and he begins to lay out the secret sauce of Wall Street. Now, you might expect a senior broker to talk about, price to earnings ratios or market trends.
Right. Here is how we identify value for our clients.
None of that. Hannah's advice is purely physiological and predatory. It's actually shocking. I was struck by the 3 specific pillars of wisdom he offers. The first one is about chemical assistance. Hanna openly uses cocaine right there at the table in a fine dining restaurant. He just pulls it out and partakes. And he explains to Jordan that cocaine isn't a party drug in this industry. It's a tool.
Wow.
It's a performance-enhancing substance.
So he's framing addiction as a professional necessity.
He argues that the job is mind-numbingly repetitive. You're dealing with rejection, stress, and numbers all day, every day. He says the cocaine is the only way to maintain the rhythm, to stay sharp, to keep the energy up.
You need this to focus.
Yeah.
Which is just a wild justification.
It's incredible. Then comes the second piece of advice, which is about the fundamental nature of the market itself. This is the famous Fugazi concept.
Yes, all of Fugazi. I love that word. It just sounds fake saying it.
Hannah puts it very, very bluntly. He looks Jordan dead in the eye and says, nobody knows if a stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
Nobody.
Not the brokers, not the analysts, not the CEOs of the companies. Nobody. It's all fairy dust. It's all a Fugazi.
Okay, so if nobody knows anything, what is the job?
Yeah.
What are they even selling?
That is the absolute key. Hannah explains that the broker's job is not to make the client rich. That is a complete misconception. The broker's job is to move money.
To create action, to create churn.
Exactly. He says, we move the money from the client's pocket into your pocket via commission. It is a transfer of wealth, not a creation of wealth. If a client buys a stock and holds it for 10 years, the broker starves. Yeah. The broker needs churn, buy, sell, buy, sell.
It is a completely parasitic worldview.
Oh.
It strips the profession of any fiduciary duty whatsoever. You aren't a financial advisor. You're a toll booth operator who just keeps opening and closing the gate to collect the toll.
Perfectly put. And then, of course, the third piece of advice, which is, it's graphic, but it speaks volumes about the immense stress of the environment.
The self-pleasure advice.
Yes. Hannah explicitly tells Jordan that he needs to masturbate multiple times a day, at work, in the bathroom. He says the tension builds up so high, the testosterone, the aggression, the stress, that if you don't release it, you will literally explode. He says the job makes you biologically tight, and you have to stay loose to sell.
It paints a picture of a lifestyle that is purely id. It is all about immediate gratification. Drugs to stay up, alcohol to smooth the edge, sex to release tension, and greed to fuel the whole damn thing.
There is no long-term planning. There's only right now.
And the irony is, Jordan absorbs all of this. He's ready to become a master of the universe at L.F. Rothschild. He learns the dark arts, and then the universe plays this massive joke on him.
Black Monday.
October 19th, 1987. The market crashes. The biggest single-day percentage drop in history.
And L.F. Rothschild, this pillar of old money, this institution, it just collapses. They close their doors. Jordan is out on a street.
But he doesn't leave the game. He takes that toxicity, the Mark Hanna philosophy, and he decides, if I can't join them, I'll beat them.
And he builds something much, much bigger.
And much, much darker. Let's jump forward a few years. It's 1993 now. Jordan is the head of Stratton Oakmont. He is wealthy beyond belief. But to really understand the chaos, we have to look at his personal life. We have to talk about the Duchess.
Nadine, his second wife.
The source material calls her the Miller-Lite girl.
Right. She was a model famous for appearing in a really popular beer commercial at the time. Jordan refers to her as the Duchess of Bay Ridge.
Which I find so interesting.
There is this fascinating class tension in their marriage that the memoir really highlights. She's from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. It's a working class, pretty tough neighborhood.
Not exactly a blue blood background.
Not at all. But she adopts this persona of British aristocracy. She wants to be a queen.
She wants to be the queen of the estate.
Exactly. She wears the Chanel suit. She manages the massive staff. She absolutely acts the part. But underneath, she has that Bay Ridge toughness. And their relationship, volatile, doesn't even begin to cover it.
So let's go back to the morning after that helicopter crash. The one where he bounced it off the front lawn.
Right. So Jordan wakes up. He's in his bed. He's likely massively hungover, still groggy from the Quaaludes. And suddenly, he is hit with water.
She throws water on him.
A full glass of ice water, right in the face. And she is screaming. And Jordan, the Wolf of Wall Street, the predator, he is terrified. He tries to hide.
Where does he hide?
He tries to crawl under the bedspread. And the text notes a specific, incredible detail here. It is a $12,000 silk bedspread.
$12,000? For a sheet. You could buy a car for that in 1993.
You could buy a pretty decent car. It just highlights the absurdity of their entire life. He's cowering under the equivalent of a Honda Civic, soaking wet, while his wife screams at him.
And she isn't just screaming about the helicopter crash, is she?
No, that's almost secondary. She's screaming because he was talking in his sleep.
Ah. He was talking about Venice.
Yes. In his drug-induced slumber, he was muttering the name Venice and something about a candle.
Oh, no.
So Jordan, being the master manipulator he is, tries to gaslight her immediately. He uses his sales skills on his own wife.
What does he even tell her? What's the excuse?
He tries to convince her that Venice was a business deal. He says he was dreaming about investing in a restaurant in Venice. Or maybe a restaurant named Venice. He's just scrambling, making it up on the fly.
But Nadine isn't buying it.
Not for a second. She knows. She knows Venice is a woman, likely a prostitute he was with the night before. But the fight isn't just between them. It spills out into the household. And we have to talk about the staff because it shows the sheer scale of his domestic empire. It is a menagerie.
It sounds like a feudal manor. Who is on the payroll at this estate?
Well, for security, they have 2 bodyguards. And, you honestly can't make this up, both of them are named Rocco.
Rocco and Rocco. It sounds like a bad sitcom.
It really, really does. Then there is a full team of housekeepers. There's a Jamaican nanny who the text describes as constantly babbling and singing.
Okay.
And perhaps the ultimate sign of just insane excess, they have full-time marine biologists on staff.
Plural. Biologists.
Oh.
As in more than one.
Yes. Plural. Their sole job, their entire profession, is to maintain the delicate ecosystem of the koi pond on the estate.
That is insane. He has scientists on the payroll for his fish.
It's beyond excessive. But the peak of this domestic dysfunction, the moment where I really felt a chill reading the source material, is the candid camera incident in the nursery.
This part was genuinely disturbing. It felt like something out of a psychological thriller. Walk us through it.
So Jordan goes into the nursery to see his daughter, Chandler. Nadine is in there. And the tension from the fight that morning is still thick in the air.
Okay.
Nadine decides to use her sexuality as a weapon to punish him. She starts teasing him.
How so?
She's wearing a short dress. She starts bending over, posing, making sure he sees her. She tells him he's on a sex embargo until Groundhog Day.
Wow.
She's leveraging his desire against him. It's a power play. She wants him to beg for her.
It's intimate. It's twisted. But it's still between a husband and a wife.
Until Jordan drops the bomb. He reveals that because of his intense paranoia about the nannies potentially stealing or mistreating the child, he had hidden cameras and microphones installed in every single corner of the nursery.
Oh my God. You're on candid camera.
He tells her, smugly, that the bodyguards Rocco and Rocco are sitting in the guardhouse right now, watching this entire private, intimate seduction scene on a 32-inch monitor.
The humiliation, the violation.
Nadine is horrified. She just flees the house in shame and rage. But it's a pivotal moment for us as readers. It shows that the surveillance and the paranoia of his business life have bled completely into his home.
There is no privacy. There's no intimacy. Everything is a show. Everything is being watched.
It reinforces that wolf in sheep's clothing theme. He looks like a dad standing in a nursery, but he's actually running a surveillance state in his own home. He just violated his wife's deepest privacy to win an argument.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that total lack of boundaries, that complete invasion of norms is exactly what he built at the office.
Yes, let's go there. Let's go to the engine room, Stratton Oakmont.
The boiler room, to end all boiler rooms.
The text describes the commute first. Jordan is being driven to work in the back of a stretch limo. His driver is a man named George.
And the dynamic with George is interesting.
It is. Jordan projects all of his own insecurities onto this driver. He feels that George hates him. He thinks George is judging him for his new money.
And as they drive through the Gold Coast, this area of old, established wealth, these huge estates, old money families, Jordan reflects on the social strata. He calls it a wasp paradise.
He feels like an invader.
He is the new money. He's the Jewish kid from Queens invading the territory of the old money Protestants. He feels judged by them. He feels like they're looking down on him and that chick on his shoulder. That is the fuel for Stratton Oakmont. He wants to burn their world down and buy it.
So he arrives at the office and he calls the atmosphere the mighty roar.
It's an auditory assault. Imagine a room the size of a football field. They stripped out all the cubicles, no walls, just rows and rows and rows of desks packed tightly together.
And the sound. It isn't just people chatting, it is the sound of 1,000 young men screaming at the top of their lungs into telephones. All at once.
The mighty roar.
Belfort describes it as a mob, a physical force that hits you when you walk in.
Let's talk about the people in that room. Who did Jordan hire for this army? Did he go to Harvard? Did he recruit from Wharton or Yale?
The absolute opposite. He specifically avoided those people. He hired the uneducated, the lost. He describes them as having low IQs but high greed.
High greed. That's quite a metric.
He wanted blank slates. He didn't want someone with a moral compass or an ethics professor in the back of their head. He wanted young, hungry kids that he could mold into killers.
Sounds like a cult.
I mean, it meets every definition of a cult. They dress like him. Expensive suits, gold watches, they mimicked his speech patterns, they worshipped him, and the culture was just feral.
There's a memo mentioned in the text that really sums it all up for me. The no fucking zone.
The no fucking zone memo, which implies
that before the memo, there was a very serious problem. Employees were having sex in the elevators, the parking lots, the stairwells, and apparently under desks so frequently that management actually had to issue a written memo banning sexual intercourse during business hours.
It's basically a fraternity house with a completely unlimited budget.
And unlimited pressure. This is where the concept of golden handcuffs comes in. This is brilliant and evil. Jordan didn't just pay them well. He engineered their financial slavery.
How do you mean?
He encouraged them to spend. He pushed them to buy the house they couldn't possibly afford, to buy the Ferrari, to max out every single credit card.
Why would a boss want his employees to be drowning in debt?
Because once you have that debt, you have to stay on the phone, you have to rip people off, you can't quit because the mortgage is due, you can't take a moral stand because the Ferrari payment is late.
He weaponized their own lifestyle against them.
That is diabolical. He enslaved them with luxury.
Exactly. And enforcing this madness is a man named Danny Porish,
Jordan's junior partner.
Danny is a character. He's described as a savage. He wears these thick glasses that magnify his eyes. He has these perfectly capped, unnaturally white teeth, and he's desperate to pass as a wasp. He wants to be old money, but his behavior is pure, unfiltered aggression.
And there is one incident that really, truly encapsulates Danny Porish, the goldfish. This is legendary in the memoir.
It is. It's the day of a big IPO. Tension is incredibly high. Every phone needs to be off the hook. Every broker needs to be dialing. Danny is patrolling the trading floor like a prison warden.
Okay.
He spots a broker who is distracted. The broker is cleaning a little fishbowl on his desk.
Cleaning a fishbowl during an IPO, that's bold. Read the room, buddy.
Danny just snaps. He marches over. He's furious about the lack of focus. Now, a normal boss might yell. A normal boss might fire the guy.
Sure.
Danny reaches into the bowl, grabs the live goldfish, and he eats it. He pops it in his mouth and swallows it whole.
He ate the employee's pet.
Alive. In front of everyone. To send a message. Focus. It's a display of absolute dominance. It's grotesque, it's cruel, and it's completely effective in that environment.
It signals that there are no rules here.
None. Normal social contracts like don't eat my pet, they don't apply. If you aren't making money, you and your pets are expendable.
That is horrifying. But it sets the stage for how they viewed people in general. I mean, if you can eat a goldfish, you can toss a dwarf.
Which leads us directly to the dwarf tossing plan.
This is a real meeting in Jordan's office.
Oh, yeah. They are seriously brainstorming hiring a person with dwarfism to participate in a throwing competition on the trading floor.
Like a piece of sporting equipment.
Exactly. They wanted to paint a target on a mattress and see which broker could throw him the furthest.
It's so dehumanizing. It treats a human being like an inanimate object.
Completely. But what's fascinating is the reaction of their lawyer, a guy named Andy Green. They call him Wigwam because he wears this terrible, obvious toupee.
Okay, Wigwam.
Wigwam is sitting there hearing this plan, and he isn't saying this is morally bankrupt. He isn't saying this is a human rights violation.
What is he worrying about?
He's worrying about liability waivers. He asks, if the dwarf hits his head, can he sue us? Can we get him to sign a release? It shows how the legal department wasn't a moral compass. It was just an enabler. They just wanted to make sure the depravity was ensured.
So the question wasn't, should we do this? It was, is it legal to degrade this person?
That was the only question. It's a perfect snapshot of the corporate rot.
So we have the culture, we have the people, we have the goldfish. Now we need to talk about the actual mechanics of the theft, the scam, the Steve Madden IPO.
This is the centerpiece of the source material. This is where it explains exactly how they generated those massive, massive numbers.
First, for you listening, Steve Madden today is a household name. You see the shoe stores in every mall. You know the brand. But back then...
Back in 1993, he was just an eccentric, kind of awkward shoe designer with a small company. He had a vision, but he wasn't a titan yet. He comes to the Stratton office to give a speech. They call it a dog and pony show.
The goal is to hype up the brokers so they go out and sell the stock to all their clients.
Right. But it goes terribly. Madden gets up there and he starts talking about the shoes. He's talking about the Mary Lou heel, the stitching, the artistic vision, the quality of the leather.
He's an artist talking to a room full of sharks.
Exactly. The brokers do not care about shoes. They don't care about fashion. They start booing him. They start throwing paper airplanes at him. It's a complete disaster. It's humiliating.
They want red meat, and he's giving them fashion advice.
So the wolf steps in.
Jordan grabs the microphone.
Yeah.
And this is where you see his dark genius, if you can call it that. He completely reframes the narrative. He stops talking about the product. He pushes Steve Madden aside and starts talking about the sale.
He creates a sense of urgency.
He weaponizes the telephone. He tells them the telephone is a murder weapon. He screams at them, rich is better than poor.
Yeah.
He gives them this binary choice.
Oh.
Either become rich here, right now, or get out and go work at McDonald's.
He turns it into a war cry.
And the brokers go into an absolute frenzy. They pick up the phones. But here is the technical part that you really need to understand. The real money wasn't made by the brokers selling stock to customers. The real money was made through a mechanism called rat holes.
Okay, we need to unpack rat holes. This is a key technical term in the memoir. Explain it like I'm 5.
Okay. Imagine you have a basket of apples, and you want to sell these apples to the town. The law says you, the seller, can only own a certain percentage of the apples, let's say 5%, if you're also running the market.
Right. This is to prevent you from manipulating the price. If one person owns all the apples, they can charge whatever they want.
Exactly. It's regulation to prevent monopolies. But Jordan wants to own all the apples, because if you own all the apples, you control the supply. And if you control the supply, you control the price.
So what does he do? How does he get around that 5% rule?
He gives the apples to his friends. He gives them to associates. He even gave them to Steve Madden himself to hold for him. These people are the rat holes. On paper, the stock belongs to them. It looks like the ownership is spread out across dozens of people.
But in reality, they have a secret handshake deal that the stock actually belongs to Jordan.
Yes. So he secretly controls the entire supply of the stock, but hides it behind these front men.
He controls the float, the available shares. So the IPO goes live. Jordan, as the underwriter, arbitrarily sets the opening price at $5.50.
But his team has stoked up massive demand with their aggressive sales calls. Everybody wants in on the next big thing.
The demand is through the roof. The phone lines are lighting up, but there is no supply. Because Jordan and his rat holes are holding all the shares and they are refusing to sell.
Economics 101, high demand, zero supply. What happens to the price?
The price explodes. It's a squeeze. It has nowhere to go but up. Within minutes, the stock soars from $5.50 to $18.
And that's when the trap springs.
That's when Jordan signals his rat holes. He buys the stock back from them at a cheap, prearranged price, say $6 or $7, and then he immediately dumps it onto the open market at $18.
So he bought it for pennies, manipulated the price sky high by hoarding it, and then sold it to the unsuspecting public at the absolute peak.
Correct. And the result of that one move, he personally made $12.5 million in 3 minutes.
$12.5 million in 3 minutes. That is just incomprehensible money for 1993. That is more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes.
It is. And it was all rigged. The poor investors buying in at $18, they didn't stand a chance. They were buying an asset that was artificially inflated to its maximum. As soon as Jordan sold his stake, the supply flooded the market and the price would inevitably crash back down.
It's the ultimate pump and dump, executed with military precision.
And what's so chilling is the detachment. In the memoir, he isn't thinking about the retirees losing their life savings. He isn't thinking about the families he's hurting. He's just looking at the scoreboard. He's looking at the $12.5 million and thinking, I won.
Now, amidst all this crime, all this chaos, there's this figure who represents a sort of tortured conscience, Mad Max.
Jordan's father.
And he works at the firm.
He's the CFO, or as Jordan calls him, the head of the Gestapo.
It's such a fascinating dynamic. Max is from a different generation. He grew up during the Depression. He knows the value of a dollar. He remembers what it's like to be poor.
And now he's stuck watching his son spend money like it's water. There's a scene where Max is reviewing Jordan's corporate American Express bill.
What was the total on that?
For 1 month, $470,000.
$500,000 in a month on a credit card. How is that even possible? What are you buying?
Prostitutes, lavish hotel suites, extravagant dinners, and duplicate items. Apparently, Jordan bought 2 identical fur coats just because he didn't want to decide which color he liked better.
So what did he do with the other one?
He kept one and just gave the other one to the housekeeper.
And Max explodes.
He turns into Mad Max. The book describes him as having 2 personalities, Sir Max on the phone, the calm aristocrat, and Mad Max in person, the screaming tyrant. He screams, he rants, he throws the bill across the room. He is just furious about the waste.
But there's a deep tragic irony here. Max is the moral compass. He's the one yelling about waste and propriety.
Yeah.
But where does his paycheck come from?
From the scam.
Exactly. Max is paid by the criminal enterprise, his salary, his suits, his entire livelihood. It all comes from the rat holes and the pump and dumps. He's complicit.
He yells, but he stays.
He is trapped. And Jordan manipulates him. When Max gets too angry, Jordan just distracts him. He'll fake a conference call. He plays on Max's desire for the business to be seen as legitimate. He treats his own father like a child that he has to manage.
It's a tragic dynamic. The father trying to instill values in a son who has already sold his soul while living off the proceeds of that sale. It really highlights the corruption of the family unit itself.
And looming over all of this, over the goldfish, the dwarf tossing, the IPOs, the Amex bills, is the threat. The external force that could end it all. The SEC.
The Securities and Exchange Commission? And the source material mentions they are actually in the building during some of this mayhem.
They are physically in the conference room, auditing the firm. They're looking through the files, trying to find the smoking gun.
So how does a firm like Stratton Oakmont handle federal regulators? Do they cooperate? Do they hand over files? Do they call their lawyers?
They engage in biological warfare. Danny Porish goes to the thermostat. He turns the air conditioning in the conference room down to freezing temperatures.
To freeze them out.
Literally. They want the regulators to be so physically uncomfortable, so cold, that they just leave early. They want them shivering and miserable. And meanwhile, the firm has the room bugged. They're listening in on the regulators' conversations, trying to figure out what they know.
It's so childish. It's like something a high schooler would do to a substitute teacher. But it's also just deeply arrogant. They think they can just annoy the federal government into going away.
And for a while, it seemed to work. They felt completely untouchable. They thought they were smarter than everyone else.
So let's take a step back here. We have painted a picture of absolute unmitigated chaos. A helicopter crash, a toxic marriage with hidden cameras, a feral office culture where employees eat goldfish for motivation,
a rigged stock market using a system of rat holes, and a dysfunctional family dynamic where the father is both the conscience and an employee.
It's the rise, but inherent in this rise is the fall. You can't sustain this level of entropy. The energy required to keep the lies going, to keep the rat hole secret, to keep the regulators frozen, to keep the wife from leaving, it's just unsustainable.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the story of the Wolf of Wall Street, aside from the pure entertainment value, what are we really looking at?
I think we're looking at the logical endpoint of a system that rewarded aggression above all else. Jordan Belfort wasn't a glitch in the system. He wasn't an accident. He was the inevitable outcome of a culture that for a decade had been whispering, greed is good.
He just took the subtext of Wall Street, that making money is the only real goal, and he made it the text.
Exactly. He stripped away all the pretense. He stopped pretending to serve the client and just said, no, we're here to take their money. We are predators. And the scary part is how unbelievably effective it was. He mesmerized people.
The mighty roar.
It wasn't just noise, it was a siren song. It seduced the brokers who wanted to be rich, it seduced the clients who wanted the easy win, and it seduced Jordan himself. He started to believe his own hype.
And the cost.
The cost was total hollowness. Think about it. He makes $12.5 million in 3 minutes. And what does he do that night? He crashes a helicopter. He fights with his wife. He hides under a sheet. The money solved nothing. It just amplified the dysfunction.
That's the takeaway for me. The juxtaposition of that massive financial win against the staggering personal hollowness. You can buy the yacht. You can buy the $12,000 white silk sheets. You can buy the marine biologist for your pond. But you can't buy peace.
And you certainly can't buy your way out of the consequences. Not forever. The crash on the lawn was a warning shot. The real crash, the prison sentence, the divorce, the loss of the firm, that was all yet to come.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. In a system that is designed, even today, to reward a specific type of aggression, a specific type of risk-taking, was Jordan Belfort a glitch in the system, or was he the inevitable result of Wall Street's culture?
It's a great question, and it highlights the seduction of that mighty roar. How the energy and the promise of that kind of wealth mesmerized not just the brokers, but the very clients they were defrauding. Everyone wanted in.
Something to think about. That brings us to the end of this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride, and sometimes it is hard to believe these things actually happened.
But the source material is there. documenting every single erratic turn. It's a reminder that reality is often stranger and much darker than fiction.
Absolutely. Think about that the next time you hear a hot stock tip. Is it a real opportunity, or is it just the mighty roar calling? Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.